Hi, and welcome to Midnight Cry. My name is Michael York, and I'm delighted to be with you this evening. It's now many episodes that we've been talking with Dr. Daniel Shayesteh. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We're talking about a very important topic tonight, which is the call to believe in Christ. It's now many weeks, many episodes that we've been making a comparison of Allah and the God of the Bible, of the Quran and the Bible, of Muhammad and Jesus, and we've really come to a decision point tonight. What will be our decision regarding Jesus? It's fantastic to have Daniel with us because he comes from a Muslim background. He is an Islamic scholar and a follower of Jesus. I really think that Daniel can help us tonight in making this decision about Jesus. First question is this, Daniel. What are your logical and doctrinal reasons for calling Muslims to give up Islam and to follow Jesus?
Michael, as we discussed in our previous talks with each other, I revealed the nature of God in Islam, that the God of Islam has created corruption and every bad thing is coming with him. And therefore, to follow such a spiritual leader influences your life in a negative way. So that logically, that every moment you're living with Allah, it's a great loss in your life, you know, in every aspect of your life, in your political, social, and moral relationship. And therefore, a God who is the creator of every corruption and debauchery or sin cannot be a good role model in your life. And it's going to create a lot of problems in your life. And therefore, you need to really change your leadership, a leadership that brings into your life that joy and peace and, if you're a religious person, a righteous identity into your life. And you are related to God, you are reconciled to God, and that reconciliation is going to bring a lot of good fruits into your life, in your relationship with your family and with other people. You know, we can even raise simple logical questions. You know, ask ourselves, there are two kinds of gods. So far we have heard from the conversation between Michael and Daniel. There is one God who is the creator of sin, and in other words, he is the creator of bad and good, but there is one God who is only the creator of good things. Which one is going to be a good role model in my life? And everybody understands this. You don't need to be a scholar to understand this.
It's back to what you talked about, our conscience. Our conscience says, yes, I want the God who is good, who's altogether good.
Very true, very true. And that you use that conscience, you use that, capacity or capability God has given to you, and you said, yeah, I want that God who is the source of every good thing, and he is the creator of every good thing, and he can be a good role model in my life. And also that's, philosophically and doctrinally is the benefit of following the true God. But socially and politically and, and in every aspect of life, if you look at it,
every practical aspect of life.
Absolutely. If you want to follow a good leader, that's going to put a great impact on your life. For example, if you want to compare between Muhammad and Jesus, Jesus says, love your enemy, respect your enemy. He's saying that because only love really changes people. Only respect changes people. You imagine that in my previous life, I hated Christians and I hated Jews, but he changed my life. He said to me that hatred cannot bring peace and, reconciliation to the world. and respect, but it is the love, and therefore you have to put love at the center of your life and make it the foundation of your life in order to be able to have a peaceful relationship with others. So from every angle, Michael, you want to look at it, there is a benefit in that, you know, and a spiritual benefit is coming first. And you and I know that if you spiritually, really, you're putting in a blessing kingdom, in a blessing family, in a blessing, you know, situation, every other thing will be blessing to you and to all other people.
Yes. Now I know that you've done a lot of study of the Quran and the Hadiths, and this is where you've built your understanding of who Allah is. But I know you've also studied the Bible and other religions and read and asked questions. And it would really help if you could, in simple philosophical language, tell Muslims who God is in the Bible and why Jesus is the revelation of God to humanity.
You see, let me very briefly, you know, start from the root, tell you who God is. Philosophically, God in the Bible is the personal God. Whereas in Islamic philosophy, God is impersonal. In Hindu philosophy, you know, in other religions' philosophy, in Greek philosophy, God is impersonal.
We would call that a Neoplatonic view, don't we? That God is unknowable and has no characteristics.
You're right. If God is impersonal, you cannot know that. You see, I mean, Neoplatonism came and said that if God is impersonal, then how do we know Him? We even cannot call that God one.
Yes.
This is the problem with Islamic philosophy about God, that says God is impersonal. If God is impersonal, you cannot call Him one.
Yes.
And if He is not personal, then you cannot have personal relationship with Him. You know, this is the simple fact that everybody can understand that. Every Muslim is desiring to have personal relationship with God.
That's
according
their
to their conscience. But the religion says who you are to have a relationship with God. Even Muhammad didn't have a relationship with God. He said God is behind the curtain. It is so sad, Michael. If you love someone, he is hiding himself behind curtain. You see, socially this is heartbreaking also. But let me finish that philosophically. You cannot have personal relationship with God. If you do not have personal relationship with God, as you mentioned, you're not able to know that God. Then if you do not know God, then doctrinally you cannot talk about Him and say, hey, I have seen God like Moses saw God. I have heard Him. I've been with Him. I know Him. He's sitting on the throne of my heart. I can describe Him to you. See, doctrinally is a failure. Islamic doctrine is failure too. And socially, politically, and in every aspect of life also is the same. You see, if really your root is not based on God, you do not have any personal relationship with God, then all your personal relationship, politically speaking, socially, morally, does not represent the personal God. It represents the impersonal God. In other words, you're living with your wife, but you're not related heartedly to that person or to your spouse, to your children. Therefore, there is not a heavenly love in that family really leading your life. There is not a heavenly value there. So it's so important that God must be personal. I remember that several years ago, some scholars in America, they approached me. They said, as you have come from Islamic background, there are some Muslim scholars who are struggling with the challenges of atheists. And they do not have a strong philosophy about God and doctrine about God to present to them. They have asked us to help them. Could you please help us to help them? My response to them was, we cannot help them because we believe in personal God. What we believe about creation against the evolution of atheists and the people who believe in evolution is our God is personal. We represent, we present to them a personal philosophy of God. But Islamic God is impersonal. We cannot help them with the personal philosophy of personal God. And they were amazed that they said, yeah, that's right. And they took my message to those Islamic scholars. So you see, the foundation of God's being that is personal becomes foundation for every aspect of our relationship in the world. And if you have got personal relationship with God, that joy is in your life.
Because that personal relationship is influencing you, it's changing you and impacting your life.
That's very true. Michael, we can look at it in this way. Only the personal being can have relationship with the personal beings. Two personal beings can have relationship with each other, and they can, affect each other. Since God is the source of absolute love, we are not, therefore He affects us. We do not affect Him because He is good in everything. So His goodness affects us. And this is really the wonderful philosophy. This is the philosophy really touched my heart. And I said to myself for the first time I was reading it, I said, this is sweeter than honey. This is really yummy and delicious. This is amazing. This makes sense to me that I am a personal being created by the hands of the personal being God, and so they can have personal relationship with you, with each other, and they enjoy their presence. You see, God also has created us for Himself. He wants to enjoy our presence with Himself. It's just like our children. Our children at home, parents just rejoice. They enjoy with each other. That's the same. We can describe the relationship in our family in a personal being. Our relationship with God also must be described in the personal being and must believe in a personal way.
There's some beautiful things we're saying about a personal God. What has God done so that we can know that He's personal? How has He related Himself to us so that we can see what He is like?
That's a wonderful introduction, Michael. It's a wonderful question for our viewers. Understand that, and especially Muslim understand that this is the area they can understand that Jesus is God. God became flesh. God is personal. He can reveal Himself in every way and form He wants. He can reveal Himself like a bird. And actually some Muslims, scholars also I found in Iran, they believed it, but one of them was killed because it's an Islamic. It's not an Islamic philosophy. Because when you start to believe that, then the door of Christianity is open to you. The door of Bible is open to you.
Because it's amazing when you start talking a personal God, you're talking Judeo-Christian, aren't you? That's the uniqueness of that
philosophy of the Bible. That's the philosophy of Judeo-Christianity. God is personal, then He desires to have people with Himself. You see, then you can attribute that word desire to God. He loves people, then you can attribute that word of love to God. Because impersonal God cannot love, because love is the characteristic of the personal God. Then God is a functional God. Why? Because He is personal. He is personal and functional, then He reveals Himself. Why? Because He wants to put His image into practice. In the midst of His... so it is really delicious. It's so yummy from every aspect you want to look at it. And then Muslim can understand why Christian believe, why Bible is calling Jesus God and the Son of God. God revealed Himself to people, made Himself just like us to understand each other. We normally can understand according to our capacity and to our power. So God made Himself man in order to talk to us so we can understand Him.
He's the best of communicators.
Absolutely. There is no any curtain between Him and us like Islam believes. That curtain has torn.
Makes me think of the time when Jesus died on the cross, the curtain in the temple, that symbol of that distance between God and man, it was broken.
Absolutely. There is no any wall between us and God. Why? Because He is personal, we are personal, and He is mighty. He can remove every personal curtain. You see, even that Muhammad spoke that philosophically doesn't make sense. God is impersonal, you're personal, personal curtain is separating you from each other. That doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Because he's already separated from you, because he's impersonal. Then you don't need to use that word curtain.
Yes.
So from every aspect, you're looking to the philosophy of Christ. It's just yummy and delicious.
Oh, it is. And that brings us back too to remember that Muhammad, in the early days, he did believe these Jewish Christian beliefs about knowing God. But then when he went to Medina, there were the abrogations and all that changed. And he let go of the most precious thing about knowing God.
It is sometime, happens in people's life. You see a door is open for you to see a light, and immediately something happens, really you miss it, and you go through the desire of your flesh. And unfortunately, when we see the Islamic teaching in the second era of Muhammad's life, it's mainly about really praising flesh, have many wives. In the first one, he has just one wife, and in the second wife, in the second era, many wives. In the first one, no killing. In the second one, killing others. It's just, it is opposite to the really eschatology of Bible, the trend of Bible. Bible starts from man, the law of man comes to the law of God. Just Muhammad started from the church and unfortunately went and absolutely just
much more materialist way of living, letting go of an opportunity for a spiritual way of living.
You're right, you're very right. He missed really that beautiful presence of God, that church was able to some extent to live that life, but unfortunately he missed that point.
We've just been talking about this personal nature of God. What will be the spiritual identity of Muslims if they give their hearts to Jesus?
You see, Bible says that God says, I have created people in my image. So if really they start their personal relationship with God, they will have the values of God in their lives. What is the image of God? The image of God is the image of holiness, the image of righteousness, the image of love, the image of peace, the image of good leadership, and the image of good relationship, and everything will come into their life, that they will have it. Identity-wise, they will be called the children of God. Princes and princesses of heaven. That's what Bible
about
calls
their identity.
The heavenly citizenship. As the gospel says, they will belong to heaven. Their relationship with any, uncertainty will be absolutely, cut, and their relationship will be fully heavenly because Jesus is living in heaven. Then you give your heart to Jesus, you will become heavenly. And also, as I mentioned to you, their relationship will be joyful, really. They will, Muslim will understand that I will have only one wife in my life, to enjoy my life with my wife.
To build that deep personal relationship, that deep sharing.
Absolutely, that deep love in your life, and to build a loving and heavenly family. And also, as I mentioned again earlier, the relationship with others will be joyful. You see, Michael, God's aim is first to release us individually, to bring the joy in our lives. It's so important for you to think about your identity first. You say, look, I have to be saved, then I can become a light to my children and to my spouse and to other people, or your spouse can think the same, or your children can think the same. So this is the heart of God for all Muslims in the world, to give their heart to Jesus and to change their identity from worldly to heavenly, to belong to God. And then Jesus said, first search the kingdom of God, then everything will be given to you. God's heart is for us to be with Him. You see, Michael, I haven't seen my mother. My mother never gets excited what I am doing. Her excitement is this, to see me and hug me and have me. And that's the heart of God.
Yes.
God doesn't need our deeds. God wants our heart and us first.
Yes.
We have to go and be with God first, or allow God to come into our life to be with Him, and then every good thing will start with being with God. So
Yes.
this is the big difference, and this will be the identity of Muslims, and that joy. The light of joy always will shine in their lives, that happiness in heavenly happiness.
Well, that's beautiful, beautiful. So when this joy comes into a Muslim person and into their family and into their communities, what kind of difference is this going to make?
Oh, huge difference, Michael. You see, they start to be creative people. They can share with each other their ideas. People will be free, and the quality will be at the, center of relationship, and people will admire those people, will value those people who contribute to the well-being of society, no matter economically, politically, socially. And the door will be open to everybody. Michael, you see, you look at to many Islamic countries, those really who are ruled by rigid Islamic law, they are not able to make anything.
Yes.
It is because of because they are missing the values of Christ. It's a harsh leadership there ruling over them. It's an Islamic leadership. So life will be changed really from the family, take from the family, then to the community, and to the big family, big community. Everything will be changed. That people will live in that freedom, will freely contribute to the life of each other. They will start to love their country dearly in a heavenly way, in a godly way, and people, and they will be proud to be a part of the globe in the world.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, after that, even the world will pay attention to them. You see, one of the reasons that people are coming from many countries to the Western countries, it's because of this freedom, because of the Judeo-Christian values.
It's important for Australians to remember that, and people around the world, that this freedom in the West is from Jesus.
You're right. You're right, Michael. You see that even in Islamic countries, many people are trying to escape from Iran. None of them are going to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is the mother of Islam. Is the best Islamic country according to the values of Islam. They are not going there. They are rushing to America, to the Western countries. And why?
Yes.
Because of the Judeo-Christian values. So everything will be changed really when they give their hearts to the Lord. And this is our message to our viewers, that you need to really give your heart to Jesus. It should start from your own life, and it's going to be a light from you to all over the world. Like a wave it will go. You see, I was a radical Muslim myself, and didn't have any blessing to the world and fruit to the world, but now I have become, by the grace of the Lord, a blessing to the world, because I believe in His love, and His love is the center of my life.
Thank you, Daniel, for sharing with us about this. And I know this has had a big impact on you and your family. Even since you've come to Christ, the changes have been continuing. Is there anything you could just share in the last minute about the kind of practical changes that have happened in your life?
Michael, we do not speak theory. I'm seeing this in my life, in me, in my relationship with my wife. I just remember the shameful attitudes I had toward my wife and to my children, and that past even hurts me when I remember that. But Jesus changed my life and the life of my wife and children, and we realized that we need to enjoy the presence of each other.
Yes.
We need to respect each other. I cannot ask my wife to be a slave to me. It is shame and embarrassing for me to call my wife as my property.
Yes.
She is the beautiful creature of God. Even I have seen that in many areas she is more wiser than me. How can I call her spiritually or educationally insufficient, as Islamic doctrine believes that. So I see that in my life. I see the light of Christ in my life, Michael. And this is wonderful. We are rejoicing our life. We are so sad, really. We were not able in that time early to know Jesus and to enjoy Him, His presence in our life. But we are so thankful that He came into our life and saved us.
Thank you, Daniel, for sharing your story with us. And I'm sure it helps those who are viewing this episode to think about this important question. Who is Jesus and what decision are you going to make about Jesus? Thank you, Daniel, so much for sharing your story and helping us ask so many questions over these many episodes.
It's a pleasure.
And I pray that what you've done will really help our audience to think through these things. Thank you very much.
Thank you.